2013 SMPS Chapter Awards Program webinar. We will begin in about 1 minute. We're going to give a few more of the chapter leaders time to log on. So in about 1 minute, we'll start the webinar presentation. Thank you. Okay, everyone, we're right at 1:30. We have a lot to cover, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Again, we want to thank you and welcome you to the 2013 SMPS Chapter Awards Program webinar. And just real quick, again, a lot of you have seen this multiple times if you have attended any webinar that we've presented. But again, if you're new to this, again, you have a control panel on the right-hand side of your screen. You can open and close your panel by using this arrow. You can view and select and test your audio. If you're having problems, you can switch between calling in. You'll see a number there, or you can use your speakers on your computer. And then here is the icon to raise your hand. If you have a question, everyone is unmuted except for the presenters. If you have a question during this presentation, please click this button here and with the hand raised, and please, we will make sure at certain points throughout the webinar to call on you and answer your question, give you a chance to answer, ask your question. You can also submit text questions. So, of course, you can type a question here, and Tina Myers is on the call to help us get through those questions. And again, we will be recording this webinar, and we will send it out to you following a few days following this presentation, along with any links or information that will go along with this webinar, this recording, and it will also be saved in my SMPS. Okay, I just want to quickly introduce the SFE, which is Striving for Excellence, and the Chapter President of the Year Committee and staff. The Striving for Excellence chair this year is Pat Bellato. She's Senior Marketing Director with her firm. Pat, I'm going to hack this. Go ahead and say that for me.
Panalam Industries.
Panalam Industries, thank you. Susan Merrigan is the Striving for Excellence incoming chair. She's Director of Business Development with BRPH Companies. We have Alethea Odell is the Chapter President of the Year for 2012, and she's a Director of Marketing and Business Development with Deck & Kolb Engineers. Holly Bolton is the National Chapter Delegate, and many of you know her, and I am the SMPS Director of Chapter Services with the National Headquarters, and I am the Staff Liaison. And, of course, Tina Myers is also on the call, and she has handled this program for many years, and I'm helping take it over this year. So she has also joined us on this call. I just want to quickly give you a glimpse at the Striving for Excellence judges. We have recruited, we have several here that will be working with us this year. Some of them have been a judge in the past. Some have submitted in the past for Striving for Excellence, and you can see that we have a nice, diverse group of volunteers here. We also have our Chapter President of the Year judges, again from different areas, and we thank all of you, if you are on the call today, for giving us your time and for helping us to judge this wonderful program. And again, I am Mary Cruz with SMPS, so if you have any questions throughout this webinar, we're going to go ahead and get started. Again, raise your hand, or you can type in a text your question. Why we're here. Okay, the 2013 criteria changes. We wanted to first just quickly discuss with you what some of those changes, how those changes occurred. If you've submitted for SFE in the past or Chapter President of the Year, you probably are familiar with the criteria as it was. And we made some appropriate updates this year for the program and the criteria. And what we did is we, of course, surveyed a lot of the chapters that have submitted in the past, and we got feedback from them. We also conducted small focus groups and shared those changes with the small focus group before we proceeded. And then we, of course, took it to the National Board of Directors for their approval. So we didn't make these changes, of course, in the silo. And we have had a lot of wonderful feedback, and it was a great process. And we're all of us, the committee, the staff, and the board, are very excited about some of the changes that have occurred this year. And of course, into the future, with your feedback and again, helping us to broaden this program, certainly we're always welcoming any additional feedback and so changes that we could possibly make in the future. Again, we're here to help you through this process, to answer your questions, of course, encouragement, and we want you to be successful. So please call on any of the committee members as well as the national staff for questions if you need to verify information, qualify some of your statistics that you're going to be including in your presentation, in your submittal. It's very important that when you document something that you have achieved, your chapter has achieved, that you have something to back it up, and that you have the statistics that you need. And we will be, qualifying some of that information. So again, we are here for you. Please call on us anytime to help you through this process. And with that, I would like to welcome Alethea Adele. Again, she's 2012 Chapter President of the Year. Alethea?
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us. So I'm just going to walk through some of the requirements for Chapter President of the Year and eligibility and things like that. So who should submit and why? I think, I think what makes the difference is probably those presidents who have a strong vision and were able to motivate their board and their team to accomplish the vision, whatever that vision may be. But I think that that's what we're looking for, a clear vision, clear goals, and a strong leader who is able to motivate. And I think we'll talk about this a little bit later, but you can either self-nominate or someone can nominate you. We'll talk about the requirements, but I know a lot of people struggle with self-nominating, but I urge you not to be shy. Everybody puts in a lot of hard work and should be recognized for that hard work. To be eligible, the candidate must currently serve as president for this year, so from 2012 to 2013 program year, and all nominations must be made by a current SMPS member. What you will submit, and this is all spelled out in the application, but 1 chapter awards application, 8 originals of each entry, and 1 PDF of the entire submittal, and the deadline is May 3rd. And so for Chapter President of the Year, you need 3 letters of support, and 1 letter should be from members of the nominee's chapter. The other 2 letters could be from any SMPS member, but they should all be from SMPS members. The letter should be 2 pages or less, stating the specific reasons why the writer feels the nominee should receive the award. And there's no more than 3 letters will be accepted. So some of the criteria, the areas that we look at are enhancing chapter financial stability, and that could mean, demonstrating fiscal responsibility, recovery from a difficult time, investing if you have a large reserve, adhering to an annual budget, creating an annual budget for some chapters, positive cash flow and net income, and an annual audit. And again, like Mary said, these are all quantifiable, and we would want to be able to prove the financial stability. Initiated new chapter or national program, ensured chapter programs are in line with domains of practice to increase the value of membership. Increased chapter national organization visibility, encouraged publicity in a variety of channels, recruited and retained members, encouraged and participated in efforts to show a net gain in number of members and to make chapter members feel welcome and included, and led the chapter in an innovative manner, fostered an environment among members and other chapter leaders where new ideas and approaches were embraced and successful.
Alethea, I just have a quick question. This is Mary. When you, your chapter, can you tell us a little bit about what your chapter board members or whoever headed up this submittal, some of the process that they went through, about how many were on that committee and a time frame of about how long it took them to do this?
Sure. Time frame, I would think, some of it I wasn't aware of, so right. I'm guessing about a month. Mm-hmm. You know, giving people, so for the people who are writing the letters of nomination, I think some of them were on the committee, and one of them wasn't. So sometimes drafting the letter for someone and letting them rewrite it was very helpful in their own words, but kind of giving them the points that they wanted highlighted, giving those people about a week to 2 weeks to have the time to review and write was important. I think the hardest or the most time-consuming part is gathering the facts. Right. So like the numbers about membership increases, sponsorship, it's just coming up with all that. But I would say allotting about a month's worth of time would be good.
And you had a couple of, oh, go ahead.
This is Tina. I just wanted to add one more point to that. For those chapters who are submitting the full Striving for Excellence, or even any element of the Striving for Excellence, many times there are chapters who have, along with maybe the team in place who's putting that information together, they'll have someone, and they recognize that they definitely want to nominate their president for the CPY. So at that same point, what's great about that is that you're calling out the same points that you're putting in the Striving for Excellence submittal as you're doing for the Chapter President of the Year. And it's critical that you guys are always on point with your message. So the couple of things you might be saying are different to really emphasize the strengths of the president and how they were able to help accomplish and get the team, you know, to do certain things. But it is imperative that you're saying the same things in that there's, you know, that's part of, you know, making sure that you're on target, on message, and you're able to prove those points. And so having another person kind of with the same Striving for Excellence team really can be very helpful.
That's a really good point. We had the same team put both submittals together, and the messaging and the numbers and everything else was the same.
Perfect.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Alethea. Again, these are some highlights of the winning submittal that was submitted on her behalf. And again, we just called out a few of the points, but again, we really highly suggest if you haven't been able to review the Chapter President of the Year submittal and also the Striving for Excellence submittals, so the winning submittals from last year and years prior, all of those are saved again in mysmps.org in the Chapter Leaders community in a folder called Striving for Excellence. And if you just can't find it, or maybe you're having problems locating the community, please let me know. This is Mary at smps.org. I'm happy to send you the direct links. But I think getting a chance to just review it in its entirety is helpful. But again, Alethea was able, and her team, able to increase membership to over 300, created the chapter's first buddy program for new members. Alethea strategically invested a percentage of the chapter's reserve, and I know San Francisco and several other chapters, small and medium, have quite a nice reserve, and looking at what that percentage is you should have and you should keep to maintain a healthy chapter, but also what should you reinvest back into the membership, and making sure that you're doing that, because there are quite a few of chapters, regardless of size, that have a nice reserve, and that's wonderful, but certainly being able to return some of that to the members. And Alethea did spend some time strategically investing a certain percentage into additional networking events and membership drives, scholarships, paid speakers, free programs, and give-backs incentives for members. She implemented a video conferencing for remote members. Again, they're servicing a large region, so that was obviously creative and inventive. Created 2 senior business leader forums to serve multiple regions. Alethea and her team developed an annual subscription plan for programs, which was quite unique. And they also initiated the 30 by 30 recognition program for members who have given outstanding service throughout the chapter's 30 years of history, and also employed social media extensively as a means to disseminate real-time news about the chapter. So again, these are just a few points in this submittal that Alethea and her team was able to accomplish. And again, we certainly suggest that you read the full submittal. So thank you, Alethea, very much for being on this call, for being an outstanding president. And I'm sure any chapter presidents or anyone on this call that is thinking about submitting their chapter president, please reach out to Alethea if you have any questions, or she could point you in the direction of the team that worked on the submittal, again, as well as Tina and myself. So Tina, are there any questions or hand raised at this time?
There was one question, and I think it was related to some comments that were on Alethea's submittal. And the question was, what would a healthy reserve be considered? So certainly you're going to have different judges take a look at this. But what we say at SMPS is that you should at least have a reserve of about 50% of your operating expenses, or about a good 6 months worth of reserves where if something incredibly hard happened and you weren't getting any money in from programming or membership or any other revenue stream, that you would still be able to operate effectively and do what you need to do for your membership overall. Of course, you want to, being over 50% is a good thing too, but when you get to a point where you have a very healthy reserve, and say you're even at 100% or above your operating expenses, then you really need to start looking at that money and finding out, well, what are you not doing, and how are you working with your members in terms of giving back and using that membership for your organization overall. And I will tell you, and any one of the judges that are on this call that have been on these before, whether it's the CPY or SFE, the judges will look to see if you have a large reserve, well, what did you do with it? Did you just let it stay there, or do you have a plan for it? So be thoughtful of that when you're putting that information in either submittal.
And we can certainly, if you have a question about your reserve and what was submitted, we receive financial forms from every chapter. We've documented what we, at that point in time, obviously what was received, and we're happy to help you look at that and walk you through it.
Oh, I have one. I have a hand raised.
Okay.
And that's Kate Mullaney.
Hi, Kate.
And hold on. Hi, Kate.
Hi, guys. That was my question. You just answered it. I don't think I meant to
have and type the question. Double. Okay, well, did we answer your question, Kate?
Yeah, and I think we'll send you probably some information for clarification on operating expenses. We have some questions about what do we need to be able to run. You know, is it every program, every member benefit, every scholarship without any income coming in, or is there a certain thing that you consider operating expenses that we would want to take into consideration?
Sure, and we can talk to you a little bit more in detail about that too. So when you get that information, just forward it to us, and then we can make sure that what we're saying and what the judges are looking at are all in line as well.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thanks, Kate.
Thank you. Very good question. Okay, so we're moving into the next portion. Again, Chapter President of the Year, Alethea, thank you so much for, again, being on this webinar and helping us out. And we'll certainly be here to answer any questions that you have about Chapter President of the Year. We're going to move now into the Striving for Excellence portion. We're going to welcome, again, Pat Bellato and Susan Merrigan. They're going to be presenting the next several slides. So Pat, thank you, and Pat's going to start out for us.
Thank you, Mary. Who should submit and why? I think all the chapters should be looking at this criteria, and the ones that think that they meet the criteria are the ones that should submit. But you need to go through the criteria carefully. You're going to hear themes that make sure you qualify and quantify your data. But if you don't feel that you qualify this year, you should use it in your planning, the criteria in your planning sessions for next year so that you can apply for next year. Eligibility, all SMPS chapters are eligible. That's kind of obvious. What to submit, one chapter awards application. That's just one application. However, 8 originals of each entry are needed on May 3rd, along with one PDF of the entire submittal. Last year we had required 10. This is a change. We only requiring 8 this year.
And the PDF too, well, you can submit on a CD. You can send it in with the 8 originals, a flash drive, a thumb drive, or obviously if you didn't send it with the original submittals, you can email it to us, to Mary or Tina.
Great. The criteria, we've, and Mary, later after, we have a lot of changes from last year, and the committee worked very hard to make this easier for everybody. We actually, and I'll get to it, have another category. But programs, educational goals, and program descriptions. Here you need to demonstrate the chapter's ability to provide creative educational opportunities based around the 6 domains of practice to members including CPSM certification, recertification, minority and diversity-focused events. And in a minute you'll see the SMPS diversity statement, but that will help clarify some of those focused events. Networking opportunities, and then program events targeting diversified career tracks from coordinator to CMO. Mary, do you want to take the diversity statement?
Sure. And again, this is SMPS headquarters and national. We have this in print. It's available also in the chapter manual. But as you can see here, SMPS embraces and promotes diversity in our organization, which includes our differences, mutuality, and similarities. We recognize that our diversity is reflected by our different people and firms. We believe our varying ethnicities, cultures, genders, ages, level of experiences, physical abilities, and other differences benefit us as individuals and as an organization. In SMPS, we will promote programs and activities that espouse our beliefs and increase awareness, understanding, recruitment, and participation of diverse persons and firms. I'm sure a lot of you are incorporating diversity into all of your programs and opportunities, but certainly this is something to definitely address and be aware of, especially when you're submitting for an award.
Thank you, Mary. Leadership chapter management. This is 20 points also. Chapter plan, goals, and progress on achieving them. Strategic plan, action plan, challenges overcome. Chapter goals in line with SMPS mission. That's 6 points. Leadership development and training, mentoring board members, committee members, and successors, recognition of members' achievements in SMPS and or in their firm, e.g. chapter marketing communications award, outstanding member volunteer, etc. Engagement of past chapter leaders and experienced members, in collaboration with other chapters and industry associations. Membership is a new criteria, a new category, and we pulled that out of, Mary, do you remember where we pulled it out of?
We did. The leadership, this used to be called just chapter management, and so we added obviously more of a leadership element here because it is so vital to the success of your chapter. We actually, in this, what you're looking at now, bullets 1, 3, and 5 were added. This is new information, and we moved some information from this section and created a membership element. So it makes a lot more sense. And again, this was some great feedback that we got from chapters that have submitted in the past, as well as some judges that were on and part of that focus group. So this is much more clear and definitely adds more of an element of the leadership.
That's right. So the next category is membership. Demonstrates the chapter's ability to retain members and the results. Demonstrate the chapter's ability to recruit members and the results. Chapter membership mentoring program and new member orientation program. Here it's very clear that we not only want to see that you've retained and or recruited members, but we need to see the numbers, or the judges need to see the numbers so that you can demonstrate the success of the chapter as far as that category is concerned.
This is Tina. Can I add one point on this, Pat?
Sure.
This is a new category, but certainly, you know, this type of information has been a part of the submissions for some years. And sometimes when the judges are looking at the graphs or the numbers that are put in there, they don't always match what SMPS has on record. So I would advise very strongly that when you're looking at these numbers, that they really are in line with what we have at SMPS National, and at least they're well identified in like with regular members or student members and things like that. So the judges really have something to look at and be able to gauge what the actual activity was and what the results really were based on.
Thank you, Tina.
Sure.
On the communications, which is the next slide, the use of approved SMPS chapter logo will be consideration in the awards, awarding of points. I actually remember a chapter actually losing points because they didn't follow the national guidelines. But also explain how your chapter communicates with members and prospects, the use of chapter website, social media, chapter newsletter and electronic news, marketing materials in print or digital, and membership survey results, methods of gaining feedback from members. Here we've cleaned this all up to add social media and to make it very clear to those that are trying to write up about their chapters. On the financial health, financial statement budget, including summary of assets and liabilities, sponsorship program, effort to invest, give back to members, community and or industry contributions, including charitable and student scholarships. And I think that's it. And Mary's going to talk about the winning submittal for SFE last year.
Sure. And Susan, did you have anything to add to this section here or communications?
Oh,
well, I think,
Mary,
you know,
we do have a question. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just asking Susan Merrigan if she had anything to add to either the communications or the financial health portion here.
Well, under the communications, I think it's really important that people show proofs in your application. I mean, use Google Analytics to show us, you know, how well your new website is doing, and show examples of what the old versus the new website looks like. You know, metrics are really key in, I think, all the winning submissions. And under financial health, I'd say that, you know, we've increased the weight of that section because it's a really vital part of the health of any chapter. And when you're looking at things like program rates, you know, is it how you determine the difference between the member or the non-member rates? Or, you know, for example, with stipends, you know, did you send a member to national conference? How did you go about doing that? Did you know, create a scholarship for that sort of thing? So that's all I'd add to that.
Tina, go ahead. Was there a question?
There was a question, and it's back in the communications section. The question is, could you elaborate on marketing materials? Are these recruitment materials that you're referring to? So Pat or Susan, do you want to speak to that?
Go ahead, Susan, if you.
The marketing materials, that would be recruiting materials, I think, does fit under that.
Mm-hmm.
I think most of the chapters have some kind of packets they put together when they have some kind of open house or programs that you hand those out to potential members.
It's also on marketing the programs and how you market the chapter to people that don't know anything about SMPS. But we've added that it could be digital or print because a lot of people don't do print anymore.
Right. And there's one thing, just to add to that as well. When you're putting, let's just talk about, this is the Striving for Excellence, the whole submittal. Based on what you're talking about, if you're referring to, you're in the membership section and you're talking about membership and all the things that you've done, well, of course, there you're going to maybe talk about the messages and the communications that you put out, and so you're going to have either an addenda that's going to support the materials there. Then you're going to have another set of marketing materials when you start talking about your educational and your programming. So like Pat says, this is really inclusive of all the different things that you're working on. So as you go through the whole process, it'll make sense to you and exactly what you need to target and focus on and what those marketing materials are referring to.
And something about the SMPS chapter logo, are we at the point now that all the chapters are using the correct logo? Or is that still an issue or not?
It is, most all of our chapters are using the appropriate logo, but not always the way they need to use it. So about every 6 months, I go through all the websites and see what's going on, and even look at PDFs and things that are going on. So we still have about 5 or 6 chapters out there that aren't really using it. So it's still something that needs to be paid attention to. And if for any reason you're on this call and you don't even know if you have those logos, let me assure you they are all readily available. We have given flash drives to all of the past presidents and the presidents from this past PLS, but I believe they're also available in My SMPS to all of our chapters too. And if you just can't get your hands on those logos, or there's something else that's not working, you just need to let us know, and we will definitely make sure you have exactly what you need to work with.
Right. So just double check that you have that, because that's a silly way to lose points.
Yeah.
Somebody actually lost a website a couple of years ago because their whole website was not
Branded properly.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, Tina, were there any other questions or hands raised?
I think that's it, Mary.
Okay, again, moving along, this is highlights of a winning SFE submittal. Again, last year, grand prize was awarded to SMPS Washington, D.C. And if you want to get your hands on an actually printed version, I'm happy to send that out to you as well. And I just pulled out a few of the highlights from the submittal. You know, of course, in the past, we've emphasized creativity with these submittals, and I think it's an element that is certainly important. But again, we're really emphasizing that the content obviously is just as wonderful as the creativity, and that it does have the backup that it needs. So obviously, we can see that this was certainly one of those creative presentation, or excuse me, submittals, but they also, here are some of the points from within it. Increased membership by 7%, reaching an all-time high of almost 300 members, 299. Increased the number of programs offered by the chapter by 20% from the year prior. Provided joint programming and networking opportunities with other SMPS chapters in the region, along with AEC organizations, tripling the number of multi-organization events that they put on. And enhanced and increased their contribution to the local community through charitable donations by 25%. And in addition to that, they doubled the volunteer hours contributed. Again, these were just a few highlights of their submittal, and you can certainly check that out in the My SMPS community if you want to look at it. Tina, did you have anything to add?
I have a question.
Okay.
And should the submittal theme be the same for the Striving for Excellence and Communications Award? So I think that did you make changes on the bonus points this year?
Yes, those for the creativity, yes. That's not an option.
Okay. Then I'm going to, maybe Pat and Susan can speak to the theme.
I don't know if the theme, we really didn't discuss that to my recollection, although Susan can chime in on that, but obviously I would do that if I were.
It is. I mean, I would say certainly in looking at all the submittals from last year and the last several years that if you submit for SFE large or extra large or medium chapter, you also submit for website and you also submit for newsletter, that there is that consistent theme. It all is under, you know, whether it's growth, whether it's something like Dr. Seuss, or whether it's something else, or they certainly, I know St. Louis is going to be coming up here in just a moment. They focus kind of on, which I'll go ahead and move to now, Journey. They did a yearbook and their journey, what that was, and chronicling that journey. And so their theme for not just the SFE submittal, obviously they also submitted for website and special event. And so that theme carried through all of their submittals in the different categories. So with that,
for everyone to think about, though, is it's just like you'd submit a proposal to a client. That's what this should be like. That's the quality this should be.
Mm-hmm.
And
so all those pieces are tied together like that.
Absolutely. When the judges look at this, a part of what you need to understand is that there are groups of judges who get different submittals, whether it's for like the large chapters or medium chapters or just communications or programs. But the thing is the effort and the theming and the continuity that you put into it, no matter what, it is recognized, and the care that you put into it it's meaningful. So even though there aren't necessarily specific points of 1 or 2 or 3 for a theme or even, the design or the creativity, it still is something that a judge is going to pay attention to because you were thoughtful about it, you cared about it. And just as Susan said, I mean, think about when you put together your proposals. They're polished. They come across as how you feel about what you're working on, and it's a reflection on you, and certainly you as a chapter and how much you care about this. So it's definitely important.
Okay. And I invited Carrie Dunn from SMPS St. Louis. She has worked for, I think, several years helping the committee submit for their SFE. And she has been, Carrie Dunn, the past president. She is currently serving as a CPSM liaison. And St. Louis did win, again, first place medium chapter for SFE. They also won outstanding for website and first place for special events. So they were awarded several awards last year. Carrie, are you able, I want to make sure your audio.
Can you hear me?
We can, yeah. Good. Well, welcome. And Carrie is going to share with us some of the their journey to get to submitting, what that process was like, and how SFE has benefited their chapter. So, Carrie, you can take it from here.
Okay. We started submitting for SFE about 5 years ago, and we were at a board planning retreat over the summer before our year started, and our incoming president brought up Striving for Excellence, and most of us didn't even know very much about the program. But we looked at it, and she said, I'd really like to submit for this, and we all agreed. We said, you know what, this is really how we should model our chapter every year. And to us, the point is really not to win an award, although it's really, really nice to win one, but to follow that criteria so that we are making sure we're doing everything in our ability to provide the best possible service to our chapter and the greater AEC community. So that's kind of why we submit, and we have submitted every year since then. So it's been, this will be, I think, our 5th year submitting. As far as the planning process goes for this, we have appointed an SFE chair, and that person, that seat is automatically filled by the immediate past president. We picked that role because the past president has typically been on our board of directors for 3, 4, 5, 6 years, so they're really familiar with the chapter and our board and the things that we're doing. In addition, we also have the president is on the committee because they're going to be in charge of the submission for the next year. And then we also ask for volunteers. So we usually have anywhere from 2 to 4 people who are on the committee, although our whole board everyone on our board really participates, but usually 2 or 3 people really do the bulk of the work. We start planning at our planning retreat over the summer before our year starts, and at that time we typically will generate a theme for our year. Sometimes we come down to a couple of them and we have to narrow them down as we get into our year, but we try to start that right away when we have our planning retreat. And then we discuss, as the year goes on, at every single board meeting we discuss Striving for Excellence. And the immediate past president will bring up all the criteria, and they keep us on track to make sure the chapter is following all the guidelines set forth. And like I said before, it's not just to win an award, although we really like that, but it's just to make sure we're doing what we need to. So the past president really keeps us on track. And if there is something missing, we say, you know what, are we offering enough networking events? Are we doing enough community contributions? Then we will kind of decide as a board how we're going to handle or approach that topic. And then the SFE chair, along the way throughout the year, they ask for information, such as information for the appendix, narratives for new initiatives that we start that we need to include in the submittal, photos, data, statistics, that sort of thing. So everyone on the board is providing this information. And then really like the last 6 to 8 weeks is the big push beforehand, because that's when you're refining your narratives, creating your layout, deciding on how you want to package everything up, that sort of thing. So, and then really, I think the last thing Mary asked me to talk about was how it helps our chapter. it really gives you a good record of what you've done for the year. You can open up this 10-page book and see really what you have done. We've tried looking back in the past before we started this process, and we're not sure what they did 10 years ago or who was on the board necessarily or different things. So it really keeps a very good record of what you've done for the year. And then we share our submission with our chapter. We usually share it at our annual breakfast meeting, which is in June. And so we're finished with our submittal by then. And we show them everything, and then it lets everyone know what we've done, where we're going, what our plans are, and it gets people really excited about the chapter and hopefully gets them more involved and help recruit other members. So that's kind of how we approach everything.
Well, great, Carrie. Thank you. That's some wonderful information and tips. Tina, I don't know if there's any questions here for Carrie or any hands raised.
Nope, we're set to go.
Great. Well, thank you again, Carrie, for joining us and sharing that information. And again, if anybody has questions for her following this, certainly I'm sure Carrie would be happy to answer any questions you have. Okay, hold on one moment. There we go. Okay, now we're going to transition to the subcategories of SFE, Striving for Excellence, which if you're not prepared yet to submit for SFE overall this year, consider submitting for the following, either communications or programs. So under communications, we have website, we have newsletter, and we've added social media this year. And then under the programs, our educational programming, we have special event and or program. So again, if you haven't not fully prepared this year to submit for SFE, please consider submitting for one of the subcategories under communication or programs. And Susan, I think we're going to go ahead and turn this back over to you.
Sure. So let's go over the newsletter, social media, and website. And to be clear, these are separate categories that you would be putting in an application for. You wouldn't like bundle them all together. So again, it shows here talking about that approved SMPS chapter logo being on your application. We've got 5 areas that you will receive points on, which is your objective, the content, quality, creativity, and the frequency. Be sure that you talk about what your chapter's objective is with the goal. So clearly state what your goal is. What does your chapter hope to achieve with the newsletter or the social media or the website? And I mean, really define that. Get specific about it. Be more thoughtful. We've seen some that aren't so much. Under the research, planning, and implementation part, describe if those objectives were achieved and how. Provide the annual budget and actual expenditures to date for the newsletter, the social media, and or the website. And for all of those, I'd say metrics are key. I mean, really show the examples of how you did it. You talk about how often is your newsletter distributed, how often do you use your social media, and how frequently is your website updated. And then be sure to take advantage of that addendum with examples of all of those. We'll talk about that on the next slide. But one thing about this, when we say things like provide your budget and expenditures, you know, sometimes people will say, well, they were donated hours, it didn't cost us anything. Well, that's really not good enough. We want to see something more like quantify those hours, how they were spent, and maybe what the dollar value is of that. Just find some way to really expand on that. I hope that makes sense. So getting into the submission itself, so there's one SMPS Chapter Awards application. Then you'll have a summary statement where there'll be 8 originals and 1 PDF that's submitted. Now it's critical to see that the summary statement cannot exceed 2 pages, and it's a minimum 10-point font. So be smart about how you use your space, like you would in a proposal. You know, work with your margins, your fonts, your graphics. Use all the visual aids that you can. We have some additional materials that are asked for in each of these categories under the newsletter. Be sure to give us the last 5 issues of it. If it's electronic, submit it on a USB flash drive or a CD containing those issues, along with 8 paper copies of each. For social media, so include your various social media web addresses on your summary statement so we can go look these things up. And we really do go look them up. Submit 8 printed copies again of this with 5 to 10 pages detailing the online social media tools that you use. The examples of the media could be blogs, networking sites like LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, content sharing sites, YouTube, Flickr, or even news sites like Dig and Reddit. And then under websites, include that web address on your summary statement. And again, the judges will go look at your site. But submit 8 printed copies of it with 5 to 10 pages of that website. And make sure to include your homepage. And also include a few images of your previous site for comparison. It's nice to see, like, how did you overhaul it? What's different about it? What more benefit are you giving your membership now with this new website? So those are the keys to that criteria.
And to Susan's point regarding making sure you show old and the new site, again, this is just highlights of a winning SFE communication submittal. First place was awarded to SMPS Atlanta, and they had done a nice overhaul of their website. And throughout their submittal here, they certainly, as Susan's mentioning, calling out specific percentage in Google Analytics and what's the how many people have visited your sites and unique visitors and page views. That kind of analytics is very important, and showing it in a fun way, obviously, here, as they've done. How often is your website updated? And then, of course, the traffic increase from previous years. It's nice to be able to see that information. And again, here's just a quick visual of what their old site looked like and the new site. So definitely a change here.
And also, when we go back to theming for a second there, Atlanta used that cover for each of the categories they submitted on and just changed it for whatever the specific criteria is. So that made it right. Tied it together for everyone.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so Pat, this is back to you.
Thank you.
Chapter Program Awards.
Just to herald what Susan said, these are 2 separate awards, special events and educational program. For the special events, they're both worth 40 points each. The first one is objective and results. Creativity, planning, development, and resources, finances. Actually, that's very similar to the educational program, which has objectives, results, quality, content, planning, development, and resources, finances. It's very important to qualify and quantify all of your data in order to be considered. Just keep detail. I like what everyone has said in the past, that although it does take maybe a month or 2 to pull it together at the end, it really does. If you plan for it in advance, you really will have your data that you need when you need it at the end when you're submitting. On the next slide, on the special events, your chapter's objective and results, what was achieved, target audience, who did this event serve. Under quality, content, creativity, planning and inspiration for this event, promotion, marketing efforts, planning and development is project timeline, identify your committee members and explain what the challenges were and the obstacles and how you managed them. Under resources and finances, did the event come in on budget? Were the resources used effectively? Promotion, marketing efforts, and sponsors, a dollar amount generated. Under educational program, your chapter's objective results, what was achieved, and who was your target audience. Quality, content, creativity is domains of practice, topic, attendance level versus target, creativity and evaluation scores. Planning development is project timeline. Identify your committee members and how were the challenges, obstacles managed. And resources, finances, again, very similar to the special event. And did event come in on budget? What were your resources? Were they used effectively? Promotion, marketing efforts, and sponsors, and dollar amount generated. For both of these awards, you need to submit 1 application each if you're submitting for 2. 8 originals needed, as well as a PDF submittal, again, on a USB thumb drive or on a disk or emailed. And just like the rest of the SFE program criteria is you need to submit it an 8.5 by 11 paper with a minimum of 10-point font. And also submit 8 originals of the program event brochure or other related materials.
If I can make a comment on this one, I have judged this criteria for many years, and there has been several instances where chapters get confused between if something is a special event or an educational program.
Right.
So hopefully now with having that domains of practice in there, it'll be more clear. But if you have any questions about it, I mean, they can come back to you, Mary, right, to ask for your input. Because I know we kicked some back before and said, do you guys want to think about putting us in a different category? Because you'll be judged differently.
Mm-hmm. Well, and to that point, I have a question that says or asks, do you consider a client panel to be an educational program or a special event?
Educational program. Yes. I think that's how we've used that. And that's where people have gotten into trouble before.
And under special event, I'm just curious, what would be like a holiday party or what are just a few?
A fundraiser, a golf outing.
Right,
Those
right.
And
definitely that, and there's the galas, all that.
Wasn't there a tweet chat last year that someone submitted as a special event?
I believe so, yes. Mm-hmm. So it's something that's one-off that you don't, it isn't tied into some other programs.
Yeah, and as Susan said, if there are any questions before you assign the category that you want to put this under, just call us at National, call Mary, and then we can coordinate, the best place to put that with the judges too, just to make sure that everyone's on the same page. Because sometimes there are things that you do that are kind of a little different, and maybe for whatever reason it's not cut and dry, but we'll help you make sure that it's in the right category.
Perfect. Okay, well, thank you, Susan and Pat. This are just, again, some quick tips that have been documented over the last several years from judges is, again, following the directions, maintaining the criteria order. And I think bullet 1 is one of the most important ones, is really following the direction and maintaining the criteria order. Articulate the objectives and address how your chapter met them in the results. Again, results are very important, and qualifying that information. Use metrics to determine your results. Address each issue within a category. Don't skip over something because possibly, hopefully we'll miss it. But certainly just make sure that you address each issue, even if there's something that you may not be able to elaborate as much on, but certainly address it. And I'm sure Susan can talk more to that in a moment. And then be clear, concise, and convincing. Again, remember that all the winning submittals are in the chapter leaders community of MySMPS if you want to review them. And Susan or Pat, did you want to add anything to these quick tips?
Susan? The only thing I want to say is that really do follow the order. Don't make the judges look for it in another section of the book. I struggled with that a lot when I did a lot of the SFE judging over the years. And, if you have to say it again, say it again. It's like we do a proposal. Client may ask for it twice in a different way. Give it to them twice the way they asked for it.
Exactly.
So put it in the order. That's the
and reference the exhibits.
Yes, I agree. Make it simple for the judges. You got to remember that they're maybe judging 8 or 10 submittals, or maybe more. We hope for more. And they're going to get, the first one's going to be easy to judge. The second one and the third one's going to be harder, and then they're going to might go back and even change some of their numbers after they've seen 3 or 4. So remember that you're competing with each other, but make it simple for them so that they can judge you appropriately.
Tina, at this point, are there any hands raised or additional questions?
There is one more question, and it goes back to the category of whether or not it fits under a special event or education. And it says, would an industry forum fall under special event or education event? We do 2 industry programs yearly, so they're not one-offs, but separate from our educational event. What is your thought on that?
You broke off a little bit there, Tina. I didn't hear part of what you said.
Yeah, someone told me that earlier. Do I sound okay now?
I can hear you.
Yeah, I can hear that.
Okay, let me try it one more time. Would an industry forum fall under special event or education event? They do 2 industry programs yearly, so they're not one-offs. I'm not sure exactly what that means, but separate from our education events.
Are they client panels?
She says it's industry forum.
Industry forum.
And let's see, I'm not sure who asked that question.
To me, that, I mean, right off the bat, I would say program. I mean, that's definitely
that's
an educational program.
And actually, I think
I'd agree
Jennifer
with that.
says, is she still on the phone? I'm going to unmute her. Jennifer, are you there? Jennifer? Okay, I'm going to put her back on mute, but I think she was the one who asked the question. I was going to ask if she had something else she wanted to add.
Well, if it's a client panel, I would think it would fall under program. And if it's it's not like it's a special event because it happens twice a year.
And we can certainly look more into the details of the program, like Tina mentioned, and get a little bit more information on it. And then if right off the bat, I'm thinking educational program, but certainly we may need to look into it a little bit more, and definitely we'll reach out to her and give her that and get that information.
Great.
Sounds good.
Okay, so again, as Carrie mentioned to you from St. Louis and others, that obviously going through this process can be very beneficial for your chapter for planning purposes, for reaching certain goals, and of course, at the end of going through this process and hard work that you put into this, certainly we want to try to reward you in some way. So the SFE Grand Prize will receive an $800 cash along with 3 SMPS National Conference registrations to this year's 2013 National Conference Build Business in Orlando, Florida. There will be coverage in the Marketer, September issue of the Marketer and SMPS Connections, and Grand Prize chapter also receives a reserve table at the Gala. First place for SFE is $250 cash with a national conference registration, again coverage, and then outstanding receives a recognition at the conference and at Marketer, in the Marketer and Connections. And all of these, if you're not familiar with this, we present these awards at the awards gala at the national conference, the black tie affair, a sit-down dinner, and it's not just chapter awards but MCA along with Marketing Achievement Award. We recognize fellows, so it's an awards night. And we will provide, and we will give out a crystal to each of these winning categories. And also the subcategories are not listed here, but for under communications and programs, they will also receive a crystal along with recognition at the gala, coverage of the Marketer, and Connections. Tina, do you have anything to add to this?
I do not.
Okay, well, if we don't have any other questions or hands raised at this point, this webinar has wrapped up. We thank you so much for participating. We had a good turnout. We are really hopeful that we'll get maybe double the submittals we received last year, and especially with the enthusiasm from the chapter presidents this year has been outstanding. So, and we've seen so many wonderful things that these chapters are doing with their programs and communications and social media. It's amazing, truly. In the last couple of years, things have just boomed from my perspective, and I'm just very excited, and I'm really hoping that the chapters, I know it's a lot of work, and I know it's assembling a team and putting a lot of time and effort into it, but I promise you it'll be worth it. It'll help your chapter, and you deserve the recognition for what you've done, for your hard work. Again, please contact us for any information you have regarding statistics or qualifying information. If you're not sure about something, we're here to help you. And we will be sending this recording out, so if you want to share it with the rest of your board or maybe the awards committee that's working on this, they weren't able to participate today, this will be recorded so we can share it with them along with the PowerPoint presentation. We're right at 2:28. We have a minute. Tina or Pat or Susan, is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, I think you've covered everything, and I just want to say thank you to everyone as well, and to thank you to all of our speakers for participating in the webinar today.
Yes, thank you very much, and good luck to everybody.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.